And great to have you here. We are doing our Sunday live stream. Unfortunately, David may or may not show up. We're hoping that he pops in if he gets a chance. He's feeling better, so hopefully he will show up. We have some guests here today. We got a few topics for today, and we're going to check out what other people are printing. So if you're printing something cool, throw it in the chat. And I'm going to bring Dominic in. Dominic, you're a regular now. This is the second week in a row that
This is in a
you're
row.
helping me
Whoa.
up. And we got Stig in the private chat here. So he might join the regular chat, but well, I'm not sure. So welcome, Dominic. It's nice to have you again, and hopefully David will show up. But again, I'm not sure if he's still resting up a bit because he wasn't feeling so well earlier in the week. Neither was I on Thursday, but I'm glad that's over with. Yeah, so I've got a few things on the go myself. I kind of talked about printing in PETG last week. I was printing these guys, but I noticed that when I printed it, the guy who designed it for a different size screw than I wanted to use. So it kind of, you can see it kind of broke out the top of this, and then it was printed in this orientation. So a couple of them have cracked along the layer line down the side. So I wasn't too happy with that design. So I redesigned it, and I'm going to just see if I can ring it up here. One sec. I'm going to put it up here so I can actually see you guys and see what I'm doing here. And I'm going to share my screen so you guys hopefully can see this. So the original one I laid out in this orientation here. You can see it's just kind of flat on its back, and I only had a small hole in it. So I found two things. Number one, I don't think my infill was high enough, and I did have 6 perimeters, so the walls were thick enough, so they were nice and sturdy, but my infill was a little low, and so I made a couple modifications. So if you let me go like this, you can see I added some slots that are the same length as this hole, and I increased the hole size so that it's just slightly smaller than the diameter of a number 10 kind of wood screw, so that I could get good grip. But because we're going to put some perimeters around this when it prints, I'll show you here when I slice it. Let me go here. So now when it slices, you can see that the let's try to find, there we go. You can see how the center of the hole touches these outer perimeters. So and then I have a higher density infill so that it has a little more bite into the screw and a little more rigidity when I'm printing it. And because I printed it at 45, there's no one layer line that is going to have all the stress. It's going to be spread out at the 45. So that's kind of what I came in with. And then I also, if you look at the back here, I added these 45 supports with just enough to touch it on the edge here, and then I did a brim. And so I'm going to flip back to my stop sharing. So these supports break away really easy from the print. So I could have it nice at the 45 when it prints, but they snap off cleanly and whatnot. So if you ever want to print something at a 45 and you're designing it, You can always build in your own supports. That way you don't have to use the generated supports in Kira or Prusa. And then you just make a thin, like this is only 1 millimeter thick at the edge that it touches the model. And then the back part is thicker. It's 2 millimeters. And then I just, to get good adhesion, because there's not a lot of surface area, I did a brim. And it breaks off, it sticks really good to the bed, and then it breaks off really easy. So that was my solution to kind of make it a little bit stronger. And I printed it out of PETG. And what it is, I've shown Dominic and whatnot, is I have a EV, Kona EV. It does not have a frunk, but it has lots of empty space in there, and it has a plastic cover that covers up some of the electronics. So I've made this mount. Yeah. So I've got some aluminum bars, and then these are the PETG mounts that I did. And then there's some rubber grommets that came off of the ABS shroud that was covering everything, and I just slid them in here. And then this is the back of a Pelican case. And then I got a nice sealable Pelican case at my local Princess Auto, which is, if you're in the US, it's very similar to Harbor Freight. It has a surplus section in the back, and so these are normally like $300 to $400. But I got it for $88 Canadian, so that's next to nothing. It's got a nice seal on it. It locks, and I can store all of my miscellaneous stuff that's under the trunk where the spare tire would be. I can store all that miscellaneous stuff now out of the way. In the front of the car, and so I have actually extra room where I could put a spare tire now if I want to. So
that's kind of a
that's my
recreation.
project.
It's kind of a recreation of the old world automobile trunk,
Kinda.
which was actually a steamer trunk strapped to the back end.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
Well,
probably why Americans call it a trunk. But
yeah. Well, there's a lot of guys on the internet they've retrofitted a lot of the Konas, which is the model I have, and they've designed stuff like this to go in, and you can buy it for like $300 or whatever. And I'm like, I could probably do that myself. And so, and then I was at Princess Auto the other day again, and they had an ammo box, a plastic ammo box that you can just use for storage, and it has a nice seal on it. It's made out of ABS. That's almost the same size, and it's only $25. So I was like, do I return this and get that one? I'm like, no, I think the Pelican's a little nicer. So yeah. I mean, it'll fit nicely in there, and I could store my charging cable, and I can do a number of things. So I'm going to make just a quick little video on that and whatnot. So that's kind of what I've been working on and printing this week and whatnot.
You're trying to get better layer strength. Reminding me that Michael from Teaching Tech. Did you see his latest video?
I did not. I saw he had a tip video out on various things, but I haven't watched it yet.
Somebody developed a test model specifically for testing layer strength.
Yes, and he had a little thing that would push and then it would snap it.
Yeah, and you could tell by how it broke whether or not you had optimum layer strength. And he said there's a way you can do the same thing just using an industrial strength kind of pure needle nose pliers to break it. You don't need the contraption to do it.
I saw I did actually just saw a little preview on that, but I haven't watched the whole thing.
Watch it.
But
watch it.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to. Because I like his stuff, and I also like CNC Kitchen. Stefan, he does such good stress tests of materials and really good analysis of why it does this and that and whatnot. One one of the things I've been playing with for a while now is putting inserts into. So this is a jig I made. It goes on the top of 2020 extrusion. I put a couple of T-nuts inside there so you can like slide it on, then bolt it down so it's nice and sturdy. And then in the top here, I've actually got a bushing that I've captured inside the 3D print. So what I did was I printed it up to about here, paused the print, and I had a hole big enough to fit the bushing in. And it's one of these little bushings right here. And so I have that bushing in there. I paused the print, dropped it in, and then continued to print. And it sealed the top. It sealed it in there. If you shake it, it barely moves. It just moves a little bit. But what I did was I wanted to make sure my tap, when I went in to tap the 2020, was nice and straight. Because when you're using a tap, and if it just goes off slightly when you're trying to do a manual tap, I mean, you can snap that tap off and whatnot, or you get really cross-threaded. So I made this just to assist so that all my taps were nice and straight. So I like when I've done a few like this one here. This one here is it's just got standard bits in it, but there's little magnets captured in the print, and they just snap in and they don't fall out.
And the magnets are embedded.
Yeah, the magnets are embedded.
At a certain level, put the magnets in. And
yeah, you pause, do the pause, and then you pop all your magnets in, and the next layer just prints right on top of the magnet. So, on the edge and whatnot, and bridges over top and seals it in. And it's a brass nozzle, so the magnets don't go book up to the nozzle.
I was thinking with models that are tall and narrower, and where you have a problem with, you can't print it flat, you have to print it.
Yeah.
In order to make it stronger, what we need is some kind of tiny rebar.
Well, you can do that. You can cut like old coat hangers or whatnot and make the diameter right so you can reinforce it. A lot of the swords you can get, that models, they're made for like a 1/4-inch threaded rod. And then what you do is you can capture a nut in the print so that you put the red threaded rod in and screw it in, and then you can like have the two pieces thread together so they're nice and rigid at that point, so they're not going to break and whatnot. So there's a lot of techniques you can do to embed different objects and whatnot into your print to add strength or additional functionality. It's kind of like when you take and you heat set some mounts into it. It's same premise, but just a little different, right? It's one, you're capturing it within the print, by pausing and then actually dropping in your piece and going from there. So there's a lot of different techniques, and there's probably like a million and one ways to do anything. Like this is my little invention, but it worked really well. I had a whole bunch of 2020 to thread, and so this did the trick really well. And if you're doing a lot of it, you want to make sure you're straight, because heaven forbid you snap a tap.
Yeah. Well, and the teaching tech video, he kind of goes through with you the different ideas of varying your printing temperature, your line width and line height.
And that's another good point. Is sometimes either going with a bigger nozzle, or just a wider line width, or just like if I will sometimes I want to print faster, I'll go 0.3 kind of thing with instead of 0.2 or 0.36 or whatever it is, width, just so that I can print. It prints a little faster, and
Well, and he was
then
showing too that sometimes
yeah,
just raising your printing temperature by 5 or 10 degrees can
yeah.
give you much better adhesion.
Well, and that's one thing I did with this PETG. Like originally, I printed it in I want to say 230, and I bumped it up to 235, and it just seemed to the layer line seemed to disappear a bit more. And then I also turned my cooling off for the next few prints because I had it at 20, and I think it was just cooling a little fast, and so it wasn't
Mhm.
adhering to the previous layer. So those are all little tips that you can do. Is you can increase your temperature, or you could reduce your cooling. That's another just it kind of it's like six of one, half dozen other. It kind of does the same thing, right?
Somebody was saying that a good idea, if when you reduce your cooling, you get too much stringing.
You
So
can, depending on the material.
instead of reducing your cooling, print two of them.
Oh, yeah, okay. That
I
that's
never thought of that. It's just,
yeah, and sometimes I'll do that. I'll print multiple batches on one plate. Um, it depends on the object I'm doing, right? Stig says he was a former mechanic and knows all about broken taps. Yeah. And then he also says he prints about from 240 to 250. I didn't want to go that high, Stig, because I don't have all metal on the printer I was printing the PETG on. So I didn't really want to go quite that high. I am converting it to all metal, and I should have probably used either of the ones back here to print, but it's so convenient having, and I wasn't printing anything big. My Ender 3 sitting right beside me here is just so convenient that I didn't want to set it all up on the other stuff. So I was lazy.
by the way, speaking of all metal, I bought a copperhead bimetal heat break and
Yes.
turned my Creality stock hot end into an all metal hot end without going through all the craziness. Just swapped out the heat break.
Yeah, and I was tempted to buy a bimetal. Who has them? I think.
I think
Where'd you get
TH3
yours?
has one now. I got it
TH3.
actually. I got it actually from Slice Engineering. It was
Yeah,
about,
and
about 75 bucks.
Slice is where I was thinking of getting it because they have a nice one, and basically it just moves your PTFE tube slightly higher up because you've got the all metal, and then it's got the basically the stainless steel tube in the middle
Yeah.
that gives you the break between the two. So yeah.
It
So and
actually works.
is
The
it working
PTFE
really well?
It works really well. I was really surprised the difference that it made. And it actually moves the PTFE tube up by about at least
An
uh,
inch almost, isn't
20,
it?
yeah, about an inch.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked like close to an inch kind of thing. So that's like what, you know,
About 30,
25
25,
millimeters
30.
ish. Yeah. So I mean that's a significant, because it's never going to get hot up there. Like
Yeah.
that is far enough from the hot end, and there's such a that copper that's on the bimetal should dissipate into the heat sink way before
Yeah.
it could get hot enough to, like, if it gets hot enough to get all the way up there, there's something catastrophically wrong
Yeah.
with your printer
And
at
then
that
too, I
point.
also put on a copper nozzle that's coated with hardened steel.
Yeah. Um, okay, I'm just going to catch up with some of the stuff Stig's saying here. And another one for so I got an all metal just so I can print over 240 degrees, and another one for PLA with a lined heat break. I just used the $16 Triangle Labs V6 for that. And they've been working very well for me ever since, as he says. And I have a few Triangle Labs pieces, but Lately, I've been trying to stick with. I want to support the the E3Ds of the world and whatnot because they make very solid products and whatnot. And so whether it's a local company or whatever, I try to support them whenever possible. I am cheap though, so I have bought from AliExpress and whatnot. But I try to buy the other stuff because a lot of times they're the ones who did all the engineering, whether it's the bimetal heat break from Slice or if it's something from E3D or another brand. They've done so much work, and a lot of times their products get stolen, and shall we say. And so I try to support them wherever possible because I want them to keep going because they do come up with innovative stuff, and heaven forbid we stifle innovation.
Just one bit of a warning about Slice Engineering. Not that I have anything against them. They're, like I said, their bimetal heat break is wonderful, and I highly recommend it. But in the instructions, they tell you you need to use, what is it, borosilicate paste.
Oh yeah. To
Okay,
to
it doesn't
yeah.
come with it. It doesn't come with it. They
That's
charge you
okay.
another.
I have a whole bunch back here now.
Well, they charge you
Um,
another $10 for a tube of
yeah, which
borosilicate.
is that's silly. They should just include it. I bought for I think for $10. I got like I got like 10 tubes back here that I spent $10 on, and so that's and it's enough to do multiple CPU heat sinks, and it's the better stuff. It's the stuff that has the I think it's got some silver something in it. It's supposed to make it a little more heat conductive and whatnot. So my E3D stuff, they shipped a little bit of the heat paste in there with theirs. So yeah, it's one of those things, right? You gotta you know they cut corners or they want to do the upsell.
Yeah.
But nozzles and other accessories is from eBay or AliExpress. I have a whole bunch of nozzles here that I bought off of probably multiple sites. Whether these are the ones for the Creality, and then I've got I've got a whole bunch of all metal heat breaks here, and I've got a whole bunch of E3D. Some are E3D, and some of them are bimetal. Some of them are zinc coated copper. So I've got a little bit of everything. And I still could keep running a 4, even though I have a point 0.8 and I've got a point 0.6.
I
I
I won't
haven't
start
changed.
messing with nozzles until maybe I get a machine with a Revo in it or something like that.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Like the Revo makes it so easy, right? You unscrew it and pop the new one in, and you don't even have to torque it. And it's like,
But they haven't come out
I
with the
like that.
hardened nozzle yet. They need to come
I,
out with the hardened nozzle.
well, I know. I think
They're working on it.
Stefan is and Tom are both working on videos soon. I think because I think they might have early versions, or I don't know if
Yeah.
they have early versions or if they get first dibs on the actual release of the hardened ones.
Well, I think
I
they.
think they wanted to get the manufacturing of the other ones like up to full steam before they
Yeah.
started expanding the lineup because they had so many issues over the years with not being able to keep up with demand, and so they wanted to make sure that all the demand for the standard ones was taken care of first, especially nowadays with the way supply is with stuff. I think they wanted to make sure that they minimized any disruption in the supply chain kind of thing.
And I imagine it's easy to have a lot of problems with the hardened nozzle as opposed to the other one. I would imagine that hardened steel nozzle is going to be pretty expensive. And, you
Yeah,
know,
and I could imagine that, you know, the tolerances you'd need. Number one, machining a hardened steel nozzle is going to be hard on its own,
one that's that long.
right? Well, and then you have to then, so either you harden it after you've machined it, but then you might have some deformation or whatnot. So like so they had to go through all that kind of stuff, and then even if you do have to, you know, maybe partially machine it, harden it, and then do the final kind of fit and finish, because when they put that tube in, you know, to you know, put the two sides together, that's pretty narrow, right? It's pretty, and so the chances of bending it or breaking it or deforming it and whatnot, and you want your tolerances to be very high. Good on them for their you know, taking the time to do it, because it's not a simple job. But
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to, like, that's the one thing I don't have is I don't have a Revo yet, so it's on my list. What I'd like to do is, and I don't know, I think you can get the Creality Revo mount now.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. The
so.
quality one is out.
So I'm almost tempted to get that and put it on my Ender, and then that way it's all ready to go, and then I just have to adapt it so that it has just the plugs to unplug the heatsink, and or if I need to swap that.
Yeah, but the new Creality mount for the Revo, you don't have to change anything in firmware.
Yeah.
So it's just a
Well, I mean, I don't mind firmware. I don't mind changing.
yeah. But I mean, even at this, that they went through all the pains of making sure that um, uh, the thermistor is the same. Uh, uh, reads the same as the
So it's the
Creality.
same. Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
they can do, someone can just retrofit theirs without doing any firmware change.
right, right.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. So that makes it even more accessible to more wider audience. Really, that's good. Yeah, it's on my list of wants. So Stig, what have you been printing? And Dominic, have you talked to your grandson? Does he want anything printed for Halloween?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I'm thinking about printing uh, a water fountain thing that's on printables.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things you put rocks in it. And you have to
Oh
make sure
yeah,
that
yeah.
you have to make sure it's watertight, of course. But
Yeah, and
which
then you do put a little pump in or whatever.
yeah,
Let's see. Just a few things for a couple of friends. Yeah, yeah, and I've just been working on, like I said, the mount for my car. That's the big project, and so I've been sitting designing that. I also designed a replacement tray for my RV fridge, because the one little door tray thing was cracked, and so I designed a new one. So I'm going to have to print that up and see how well it does. I mean, it's going to be in a fridge, so I think PLA is probably fine.
I would imagine there are a lot of things in RVs that you can do 3D
Well, I
stuff.
printed replacement for, like, it has the door on the fridge has a little metal handle that when you pull it, it releases the travel latch that stops it from, like, rattling open if you're driving. And the top corner, the plastic broke, and
Yeah,
so the pin popped out and whatnot. So I designed a new piece, popped it in, works great.
I would imagine you could also redesign the latches that hold your cabinet door shut.
Yeah, you could do
Because I
all that
remember
kind of
when
stuff.
I had a trailer, and that was always a problem because they would always break it. There,
Yeah,
there has to be a better way to hold those
and the
things
and the
going.
RV accessories is a real racket. You know, that one little
Yep.
clip is going to be like $35 for like a set of two,
Yeah.
and you know you can print it for like 2 cents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
The RVs and boats. What I like
right,
is I remember
any recreation stuff, they they get you coming and going.
I remember I bought a cup holder for a pontoon boat. Just wanted something to hang onto the railing
Yep.
at the boating store. It was like $20, and or I could buy it in a dollar store.
Yeah.
It's, it's something insane. It's like just because it's for just you put boat on it, and
Right. Or RV.
same thing with seniors. If you want to buy a cup holder for a walker or a wheelchair, those things cost a fortune. And
Any
the
you know,
same thing,
as soon as you associate something with an industry, whether it's the medical industry,
yeah,
the recreation industry, they feel they have a right to mark it up to 1,000%.
yeah.
Yeah. What's the Stig say here? I've been thinking about buying another E3 Pro, Ender 3 Pro, and use the Z uprights on my CR10S Pro to increase the build height. Oh, yeah. You could just buy some. You could just buy some
Extrusion.
extrusion and just tap it and make it as tall as you want.
Yeah,
Really, and then you just have the only real thing you'd have to get is the lead screw, right? You just have to get a longer lead screw, and so if you want a meter lead screw, you can get a meter lead screw if you want it, and then you just have to make sure your wires are long enough so you can travel all the way up, right? So, yeah. Yeah. There's lots of mods out there that they increase the height of your Ender 3, or they increase the width of the Ender 3, and then it's basically a CR10 at that point. You could probably get a CR10 and convert it, like an older one, and convert it to 24 volts and everything. So
I've got the original version of the Ender 3. One with the smaller Y.
yep,
You know,
that's what I have.
it works fine.
Yeah, it's still solid. Like
Yeah,
the only
yeah,
thing that they really upgraded was it now comes with a silent board, so it has the silent
yeah.
steppers, which is really nice.
But I've already
And
replaced the board. We got a
right,
new board in,
no,
so
but like if you bought a new one, you
yeah.
get a silent board and you get the newer screen,
Mhm.
which is same but different.
I don't want a touch screen. I
Oh,
think
it's not a touch screen. It's a
oh, okay.
bigger screen, but you still have to use the knob. So I've
Yeah.
changed the firmware, and so it looks like when you use the knob, it looks more like the traditional Ender. Because before it just kind of moved a square over each icon, and then you had to
Yeah.
press.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know, and they have lots of different interface firmwares and changes now that you can get. So it works really well. So.
Yeah. I think if I was ever going to buy another um, printer in with those dimensions, I'd go for the either the original Ender 3 or the what came after that, the Ender 3 Pro or whatever it was.
Yeah, the Pro 2 is the newest one, and
No, I don't
then
want that. I don't want any of the proprietary hot ends or
no, no,
screens or any of that. I
no.
want the
Well,
old screen.
this yeah. If you
I
want
don't,
the old screen, then you just have to get the Ender 3 or the Ender 3 Pro.
yeah,
Yeah, but they're becoming harder and harder to get because they're trying to push the SL1 and the SL1 Pro, or SL1S.
Is that the
Can't
one
remember.
that they won't even give you the firmware for? You know, the open source
I think
code. They
you
won't. They won't let you. There's one of the new enders. They won't give you any of
they
that.
didn't open source it. Well,
It's
I think
technically
you can
well, it's technically a violation of the code, but
of the
uh,
because they're probably
that's
still using Marlin on it.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you can reflash it, I'm sure, but yeah, I mean, Marlin's pretty straightforward, right? You've got you can configure it however you want. I think the biggest thing that people run into is inexperience in what to choose, right? Because you can get overwhelmed with the options that are available in Marlin and which ones do I turn on. So once you have some experience and you understand the dimensions of your printer and the features of your printer and what you use, then you can understand which features you want to turn on. You don't need to turn on everything. Now you can turn on everything, but that might cause you more grief. If you turn on, like, some people might not realize, and they might not turn on, some safety feature that you really should have on if they're doing it themselves. So there's some good guides out there. I think we have a few on our channel here too. And that's one of the things we want to go over in our series that we're going to do with you guys, the course that we're putting together. So
Speaking of things to turn on and off, with the new, just looking for your opinion. You don't have to
yep.
know. Um, but with the new Arachne engines in both Cura and Prusa,
Yep.
does that mean we don't need arc welder or support anymore?
No, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. So Arachne is more for the way that it calculates how to do the walls and the interfaces between the walls, whereas the Arcane engine piece, which I think they've integrated into Kira now.
It's in Cura. It was in
Yeah.
Cura first, and
Yeah,
then
and
Prusa.
so and I can't remember if I don't remember if they integrated it into. You can integrate it into Octoprint or whatever you want, but what it does is it takes your linear moves and turns them into arcs. So instead of going from point A to point B and doing it in like little tiny lines, it calculates the arc. So it moves your print head in an arc instead of right now. The way it works is it calculates you're going to go from here to here, but you're going to do it in like 600 little tiny moves. And it does it so smoothly that it looks like it's making an arc. But if you were to really look closely, it's straight. It's a straight piece, multiple. And so it has to do that math to do that. So it simplifies the size of your G code files, because now it's to go from point A to point B in this arc now is only moving, 2 lines of code, right? 2 G code lines versus 58. So it simplifies it in that respect, which now we've got all of these most of us are running 32-bit chips on our boards now, right? And we're not doing the 8-bit anymore. So does it make that much of a difference if you have multiple lines and whatnot? Because, a whole bunch of little straight lines does add up to an arc eventually, right? Is one more efficient? Yes. But your printer needs to be able to understand it and interpret it correctly. So you have to have it on in your firmware also. You have to have ARC support turned on. And if you have, I'm not sure what it would do if you didn't have that turn on and you processed a G code that had the ARC arc command on because it wouldn't understand what the code is really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I use like Arc support because I do everything through Octoprint,
yep.
and the Arc support G code is smaller.
Yeah, and with Octoprint, you can have you when you upload, like if you upload your file, you can have it post process on the Octoprint side to reprocess it
Yeah,
with Arc support.
that's what I do, and that way the
Yeah.
file is smaller that it sends
Oh,
over.
it's amazing. You can go from like 20 meg to 2 meg.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy depending on how complex the thing you're printing is, right? Like if you're doing a huge helmet with lots of curves, you definitely can reduce the size quite a bit. So, and that alleviates how much processing the CPU on your board needs to actually interpret, because if it's just doing a command that's just an arc, it's a lot simpler. So there's a number of ways you can do it to make things, smoother and whatnot, but they're not mutually exclusive. So you can have both, and it doesn't. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you specifically have to turn it on in Cura if you want to use it. Right?
Yeah, if
It's
you're going
not
to use
on,
it in
right?
Cura, you have to use a plugin
Yeah,
or
and I don't
extension, whatever
remember.
you call it.
Yeah, I don't remember if it's an extension or if you can do it in Prusa yet, or if it's built in now.
Yeah.
I don't recall. I'll have to dig into that.
It's an extension or plugin or whatever in both
Yeah.
Cura and Octoprint. You've got to set up.
But it basically it calculates the arc, and it works well. And so you've got your G0, G1, and I think arc is it G2? I can't remember. So G0 is like move without extrusion. G1 is move with extrusion, and I think I gotta look it up now.
I can't read
G.
I've got
it's actually
so many
not hard.
computer languages in my head. My brain is full.
Let me look here. So, okay, yeah, G0 coordinate motion and rapid rate, G1 coordinate motion and feed rate, and G2 and G3 is coordinate helical motion and feed rate. So yeah, G2, G3 allows you to do the arc. And then G4, if you're interested, is dwell.
I would bet that if you don't have arc support turned on, as soon as it saw the G2, G3, it would stop.
Yeah, it wouldn't be happy. Yeah, if the Marlin version or the whatever version of firmware you're running doesn't understand G2 and G3, yeah, it would probably not be happy at all.
And talking about firmware kind of stuff, I've noticed that at least a couple or three people have gotten a hold of that Creality thing.
Oh yeah, the little that we were talking about last week. And I took, after the show, I did a little deep diving in it, and it does reflash your firmware with Clipper.
Yeah,
it actually has a process where it puts it on the SD card for you, and then you put it in the machine and flash it and whatnot.
It's nice that the device gives you the G code to load onto your onto your board. You don't have to go looking for it.
Basically, the way it works with when you do Clipper on a Pi is the same way. You have to generate it yourself and then copy it. So they've simplified it a little bit so that it can generate it and whatnot. And they have a web interface that you can basically go into over the IP address. And I'm not sure if it's Mainsail or Fluid, but it looks like one of them. And you can see that it had. Oh, go
I
ahead.
think you have to set it up yourself for mainsail. I think it uses the other one.
Well, the Creality mainsail and fluid are so close that it's
Yeah.
like six of one, half dozen of the other, really. But the web interfaces on both of them are very similar. They both use the Moonraker API and whatnot. So and it has a similar update feature. Like on my Hulk back here that's running it, you can go in and you can update your Pi like normal, and get update, all that stuff. But you can also go in the GUI, and then you can choose update my software version, update the Clipper version, update, and you can go through and update each of them or update them all, and it just pulls them offline and pulls the libraries and gets you the latest version. So it's very interesting. Now they've put their own Creality branding on whichever, like I said, mainsail or fluid. I'm not sure which one they forked, but they forked one of them and put their branding on top.
All I know is it's not compatible with Vendor 5 yet, so I can't get it.
Oh, you can. It still is, because what you do is, like, for example, your Ender 5 doesn't have an Ender board, correct?
Correct.
So what you would do is you would go on the Clipper website and go through the steps to set up Clipper and go through the steps to set it, and you can still use your Creality screen and whatnot to use the right bootloader and whatnot to generate the proper Clipper firmware that's going to have to go onto your Ender 5 with,
Yeah.
Your
But
CR10 or
takes away
whatever.
that takes away the benefit of having the Creality box, because now I'm just
Well,
going back to doing Clipper all over again because
you're still doing Clipper. Either way, you're doing Clipper. They just made it easier to do Clipper with
yeah.
their stuff if you are stock, right? If you're not stock, you're doing Clipper the same way everyone else is doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, because I have to have different. My Z motor runs at different steps than
Yeah,
all the other others.
and so in Clipper, you go into the config file and you have to, it's not the firmware that does that piece. It's, you do that actually in the Creality tablet in the config web interface. You go into there and then you adjust it in there. You can also adjust in there the directions that your motors spin, everything,
Yeah.
and that's independent of the firmware that you have to put on the board. So yeah, but Clipper works really well. It's it's just different, right? It's some of the commands and whatnot are very duet-ish. If you've ever seen a duet board, if you want to change direction, you have to put an exclamation mark in front and whatnot, and that changes the direction of the motor. And so there's a number of different things that are very similar, and they've tried to keep the language, because someone's already developed this for duet and whatnot, so they've adopted a lot of that, and so it's similar in the way it works, similar but different.
It's kind of neat that they give you an accelerometer. Uh,
Yeah, I noticed that you get the accelerometer so you can attach it and whatnot. Like, I have an accelerometer here, I haven't set it up yet,
uh,
but I have to solder wires and everything. But they've got a little mount you put on, and then it does the
you've got to print the
vibration.
mounts. They give you different mounts for different machines. You got
Yeah,
to print it.
it's still cool.
Yeah.
It's really neat. Like, so, and good luck, like you were saying earlier. Good luck getting a Pi if you want one.
Yeah.
So this is this,
But see, that's the thing that makes it affordable. Right now,
right?
a pie can cost you $200.
So
Depending
this
where
is
you
a
go.
really good alternative
Yeah.
for someone
I,
who wants that kind of interface, and you get a nice screen with it. So I was more skeptical the last time we talked. So I would like to try it and really see what it can do. So we'll see. Yeah. You know what we haven't done yet? We have not thanked these great people. I just want to thank the Patreons, because any of the patrons, they support us. They participate here, like Dominic is today, in the channel. We have great conversations, and they support us. So Helge is at the tree support level, and Stig's on there also, and he's in chat today, and Dominic's here. So we just want to shout out to all of them, that we appreciate all your support. It makes a big difference in what we do. And we, as a bonus, you get to join us in Discord. We put out the links on Patreon and in Discord if you want to join us on the channel when we do a live stream. So you can join us like Dominic did today. And we are just so happy to have all the supporters, that have been with us for many, some of them a year or two. So it's been great to have all you along for the ride. David and I both appreciate it, and hopefully you've got something out of today's show. And don't forget to you give us a thumbs up on to the YouTube gods, so that they hopefully will spread us around the internet some more. But we haven't been doing any of these lately. Everyone's doing the YouTube shorts. Dominic, what is your view on those YouTube shorts, vertical video?
I don't like most of them. Most of them are just time lapses. Well,
not all of them. Some people are actually doing like a little clip video, but like I'll be like, oh, so and so's put out a new video, and then it's like this short. It's like, that's not what I was hoping for. Why is it in my regular YouTube feed?
Well, especially if they put in the clickbaity kind of thumbnail on there, giving you the impression they're gonna answer my question, and they just get this 5-second thing.
For me, it's not even that. It's just that I'll be flipping through my subscriptions, whether it's on my Fire TV or my phone, and then all of a sudden, I'll see, so and so's posted a new thing, and I click on their new thing, and it's not a video. It's this short that I mean, it's not what I wanted, what I was expecting, right? So I know YouTube is trying to get people to do more and more of those, and they are promoting people's channels that do them. And so that's why a lot of the channels are doing them, because they're actually getting, if you got 10 cents to make a video, and then you might get like 58 cents or $1.20. I don't know what it is, whatever it is, to do one of these shorts right now. So you technically, if more people watch those shorts and they can promote them, you make more money if you're into YouTube to make money. David and I are here to hopefully entertain you and hopefully help you with issues that you have and whatnot. We're never going to be rich on YouTube, and we're not trying to be. So, but some of these people, this is their career. Yeah. Right? I have a daytime job. This is not my daytime job. So this is a hobby that I enjoy, and I enjoy helping people. So that's why I guess I don't care about the vertical video shorts thing. It's like, not my thing. Well,
if you quit your job to do YouTube, then you got to do what you got to do.
Right. And so I don't hate them for doing it. It's just kind of like, can you just not clutter up my regular YouTube feed? Can you just put it in like a separate portion that it only shows up if I click on that?
Well, and
under
especially when it's somebody that normally gives you a lot of information.
right.
Um, One in particular is a great guy. I'm not complaining about him at all. There's 3D Musketeers. He's got a lot of good information he puts out there. But he also puts out these YouTube shorts, which are almost always nothing more than a time
Than a
lapse
time
of
lapse.
something you put. It's like, stop that.
Well, I guess it's one of those, time lapses are super simple. So yeah. Oh well. Well, I think we're at the bottom of the hour here, and I've got to run some kids around to different events. So I want to thank you, Dominic, for showing up.
You're
Oh,
quite
Gary's
welcome.
here. He goes 5 minutes to spare, and I'm cutting you off early because you got here with 5 minutes to spare, and I'm trying to leave a little early. Sorry, Gary. You'll have to watch the highlights. We'll do a short. All
Go
right.
to
Well, I got
Discord.
to go. And thank you again, Dominic, for showing up. Hello, Stig. And thank you for participating in the chat. And Gary, nice seeing you in chat. We will see you next Sunday.